Hey, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Joy Behind the Chair. So excited to be here on the beautiful grounds of the Hawaii State Public Library, the Honolulu Library, and we're going to get into our topic in just a moment. I'm logging in a few minutes early just to give people a chance to get situated and adjusted. And meantime, I'm going to try to rearrange the camera so the sun isn't right behind me. So if you are catching the rebroadcast of this presentation, please fast forward about 3 minutes because we are going to start again at 9 a.m. Hawaii time. Today is Monday, November 14th. It's a great day. This morning actually, early in the morning, about 1:40 something, there was a super moon. If anyone was up, give me a thumbs up if you were able to catch that. It was from what I could see in the photographs, it looked pretty awesome. I was fast asleep catching some Z's. Again, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Joy Behind the Chair, where we're going to take a look at our beautiful Honolulu Public Library and see what kind of inspirations we can gather to help elevate our satisfaction and our joy in our workplace and in our lives. My name is Bonnie Oda, and I own Beauty Solutions Honolulu, and our mission in our company is to educate and provide great products to stylists and salons so they can be successful. Joy Behind the Chair is a series of Facebook Live streams, and in this particular series, what we do is we take you to different spots around Hawaii, favorite spots of the local people, and we look for inspiration on how to elevate joy and satisfaction in your life and in your workplace. So we have another 2 minutes. I'm going to just bala'au and talk story with you until we get into the meat and potatoes of things. If you are catching the replay, please fast forward another 2 minutes and you'll be able to get the main message of today's broadcast. People ask me why I started or why I took over this company, Beauty Solutions Honolulu, because my background really is in education as well as sales and marketing. And it's a little known fact that many years ago, I worked at a local self-improvement school, a local charm school, and I started my own as well. I taught for about 2 years in this little business that I started right in college while I was in college. And I've always had this, that is actually that job and that business is what really sparked my heart for education, because to help people develop and discover their full potential was very exciting. So when I had this opportunity to take over Beauty Solutions Honolulu, I decided that it would be a good fit. So that's the whole story behind that. And again, if you are just logging on and catching the replay, please fast forward another 30 seconds. So my name is Bonnie, and I'm going to go ahead and start because I just saw that it is 9 o'clock Hawaii time. My name is Bonnie Oda, and as I said, I own Beauty Solutions Honolulu, whose mission is to educate and provide great professional products to stylists and salons. And each week I take us around the island and we explore a new location and see what kind of gems we can discover that will help elevate our satisfaction and joy at work. So today I bring you to the Honolulu Hawaii State Public Library, and this is very interesting. I learned so much when I decided to come here. I did a lot of research and I found out that this particular building is not the original library, but it was constructed and the construction was completed in 1913. It started in 1911. It took about 2 years for the building to be complete. And one second, I'm sorry, I just got an invitation from the library system to join their Wi-Fi, but I'm gonna just distract that. Okay, so anyway, it was construction started in 1911, and what happened is it was in another location, and back in those days the library was actually a private library, and that spot that the private library sat on was actually the building just got too old. They needed to rebuild, and so they decided on this very location here. And of course, construction was going to be pretty hefty. Now, keep in mind, this is the early 1900s, and they realized they needed some money. And so, some of you may have heard of the industrialist and the philanthropist Andrew Carnegie. Well, Andrew Carnegie, huge believer. I think those of you who have read his biography know how important he felt reading was. So he actually donated $100,000. Hi, Melva. So glad to see you join on board. Thank you for coming on board. Just talking about the Hawaii State Library and how the philanthropist and industrialist Andrew Carnegie actually donated $100,000 in the early 1900s to construct this building, which was completed in 1913. That's pretty amazing. And he wasn't the only one that was thank you for the thumbs up. Thank you very much. He wasn't the only person who believed in the importance of reading and books. There were others, particularly our monarchy. So King Kalakaua, Queen Kapiolani, Princess Huahi Bishop, let me see, there was somebody else, Queen Emma. They all additionally gave of their personal money, and they also donated their personal collection of books to the library. So today, this building here serves as a flagship to the Hawaii Public State Library System. And this is a surprise too, our library system here is one of the largest in the nation. All of the libraries are contained under one group, right? The Hawaii Public Library System. It covers all of the islands. That's one of the reasons it's so large. And it's also part of the Department of Education. So very, very interesting. This particular building houses about a little over 525,000 catalog books. Now there are some other books that people donate and they're not catalog, but 525,000 catalog books sit here in our library. And sometimes people will say, I wonder why there's the pillars in the front, because it's not like a royal building and it's not the Capitol. Why are the pillars there? And these pillars actually were a requirement from Andrew Carnegie to denote that it is a Carnegie library. So actually it's part of the vernacular and it's a required portion. And I thought that was really fascinating to realize that every Carnegie library are going to have pillars just like this. So super, super interesting. So I want to get into the question, why do these people believe in reading? Why do so many great, successful, intelligent, prosperous, happy people believe in reading? Well, you know, there's an old Chinese proverb, and it goes, a full glass is worthless. A full glass is worthless. So I don't know, what do you think that means? The way I interpret that is that once you feel that you have no more information to take in, nothing more to learn, your value is not so great. And reading, it enables us to really survive and grow and do well in this world of constant change. Our world is constantly changing, especially with technology. You know, once we entered the technology age, I mean, information just kept coming and things kept moving at this lightning speed. So reading enables us to stay on top of it. And so what I'm going to do is share with you my top 10 reasons that as I read from different, as I gathered information from different people, from Forbes, from Harvard Review, from the education department, why is reading so important? So one is that it allows us to keep up with the change as it moves along. Another is that this is really interesting. Of course, it allows us to be learners. Duh, right? I mean, one of the major benefits of reading is that it allows us to learn new things, but it also boosts our imagination and our creativity, and it shows us that nothing is impossible. Everything is possible. It's just a matter of seeing something from a different angle. So as you read, you can look at things, you can study situations from other people's point of view, and that is a tremendous asset. Number three, reading Oh, this is super, super interesting. I learned from an article in Psychology Today that back in 2013, a study was done where they discovered that reading fiction. Now, I've always been thinking, oh, I've got to read my trade books and I've got to read self-improvement books, and oh, I love reading my fiction books, but oh gosh, it's sort of like tithering away. It's sort of like watching TV or something like that. Well, here's the thing. Reading fiction is extremely important in developing our ability to be empathic. Our ability to put ourselves into someone else's shoes is developed by reading fiction. When we get lost in a book, I don't know, give me a thumbs up if you've ever read a book and suddenly you lose all concept of time, right? And you are just totally so immersed in the book that you might be reading at a park or on the bus and all of a sudden you burst out laughing, right? And then you get all embarrassed because you look around like, oh, did anyone see me laugh out loud? Or sometimes you start to cry, and I'm famous for that. I'm reading this book and I'll just start crying, right? That means your brain has totally connected with the story. And that connection is incredibly important for empathy. And as many of you know, my background was being the humane educator of the Humane Society. Empathy is key for compassion and humane values. So reading fiction is very important for us to continue. Reading for enjoyment is very important for us to continue. So that is number 3. Number 4, it allows people who are successful to share their ideas with us, to share their input, to give us guidance. So it allows experts to reach out to us and connect with us. Reading with complete abandon, like I was mentioning earlier, also allows our brain to be clear and focused. It's interesting because I've been talking with people my age, because I think I mentioned to you that I'm 60 years old, and a lot of people for the past 5 years, a lot of my colleagues have said, my gosh, I feel like I'm getting ADD. I feel like I am not able to focus as well. My brain isn't as on things, on task. And a big reason, and when you ask them, how many of you read fiction? How many of you read at least half an hour a day? And a lot of people are saying, my life is so busy, I just haven't found it, or I kind of fell out of love with reading, and I just haven't, I'm embarrassed to say it. It's no need to be embarrassed, but reading, if you pick up reading again, it's going to allow you to stay focused and allow your brain to be clearer in its thoughts and more organized in your messaging. So that's another great reason. I think I'm on number 5. Reading is a great way to prepare for action. And I thought, what is that? What did they mean by that when I read that on Forbes? Well, basically, reading allows us to kind of practice as a new thing that we want to try. Great example, you're going to try a new method. Just the other day, I wanted to try this new method I heard about cooking bacon. If you want to cook a pound of bacon, and I read up on it, and they said the best way to do it, to try doing it in the oven and putting the foil down and putting the racks and laying it out just so. And so as I'm reading the instructions, in my mind, I'm starting to practice and rehearse how I'm going to cook the bacon. So when it came to actually doing it, I felt very confident in my methodology. And on top of that, I could refer back to the recipe, right? The instructions, the written instructions, and I was very successful. And by the way, it is a Cat's Meow. It's a great way to cook a lot of bacon without the mess and smelling up your house. So anyway, so it's a great way to prepare us for action. And so number 6, as leaders, as community members, as employees, we must always strive to improve. We must always strive to develop and improve and increase our knowledge on things that are pertinent, and that is going to allow us to not shortchange the company you work for, or the people that you're leading, or even the community that you're part of, or your family. So reading is very important for you if you're going to be a contributor or a leader in the community and in your family. If you're ever going to make an argument about something, reading is very helpful, right? Because you're going to gather information. So number 8 is it provides you support when you need to make a point. You know, I read a book by so-and-so, like what I just shared with you about Psychology Today. I read this article from Psychology Today that taught me that reading is very important for establishing empathy. Well, as you read and as you learn more things, hi Robin, it's so good to see you. Thank you for joining. So as you read, you gather information and you tuck that away, and then as you're ready to make a point and a request, then you can refer back to that and quote the article or the item that you read. So number 9, it allows you, sort of similar, it allows you to grow as a person. And as that old Chinese proverb is, right? A full cup is worthless. We must all continually learn. We must all, thank you for the thumbs up. We must always try to improve ourselves. And you know, I said earlier, it's because it's something that you want to do or you should do for your company or your family, but really, you want to do it for yourself. You are worth it. You are worthy of improvement. You're worthy of striving. You're worthy of having your mind just explode with new information and new ideas, and you're worthy of being more imaginative and creative. So that would be number 9 on the list. And finally, it allows us to understand the ABCs of things and exposes us to new ideas. So those are the top 10 reasons that I think reading is important, and probably a good reason why King Kalakaua, Queen Kapiolani, the monarchy, as well as Andrew Carnegie felt that it is important as well. Tina, hi, thanks so much for joining on board. Give me a thumbs up if you have a chance. We're just talking about, we're visiting the Hawaii State Library, and this is the Honolulu Library. It serves as the flagship for Hawaii's public library system. This particular building houses about 525,000 catalog books as well as more uncatalogued books, right? It was built in 1913 due a large part because Andrew Carnegie, the philanthropist and the industrialist, gave $100,000 back in I think it was like 1910 when he actually wrote it, because they started construction in 1911. He gave $100,000 for this, which is the reason that we have these big pillars here. It denotes, the vernacular denotes that it is a Carnegie library. Back then when it was built, it was a private library, but today, as I mentioned, it is part of the Hawaii Public Library System, one of the largest public library systems in the United States. So we kind of explored some reasons as to why reading is important, why so many people invest heavily on the importance of reading, and people will will invest also financially with their capital. So let's take a look. You know, we're so busy, and I think that is one of the reasons that people have stopped reading. Oh darn it, I didn't write this down. There is something very fascinating that I read, and it said that 40% of college students will not open a book for enjoyment once they graduate. 40% are not going to read for enjoyment once they graduate. They will read because they need to for work. They will read they'll just read articles or whatever, but they'll not open a book for enjoyment. And you know, Tina, since you came on a little late, I do want to share with you one of the startling facts that I discovered is reading fiction, reading for enjoyment and fiction, and getting completely lost in a book to the point where you're laughing and crying. That is very important in developing our empathy. And as you and I both know, Tina used to work with me at the Humane Society. Empathy is critical in developing compassion, kindness, and humane values. So reading goes beyond just improving yourself, but it really is an investment into the community itself. So when we talk about different kinds of reading, and people say, oh my gosh, I don't have the time, how am I going to read? Well, the first thing is I say, well, just start with something. Start with something. So there's different kinds of items you can read. You can read industrial magazines to stay updated, right? And I think most of us who work will do that. If we're in the hair industry, we'll read the salon magazines. If we're in animal care, we'll read animal welfare. You know, we will read the industrial magazines, and that's good. At least we're reading, right? And we're gaining information. You can read your business books and investment books to develop your financial acumen. So that's very important. This one I love. If you're not really reading that much, look up some of your mentors, and a lot of them are writing blogs. Read what they have to say, and it'll start to spark. Hi Nathan, good to see you. Thanks for jumping on board. So reading blogs from your mentors are going to spark your interest and your curiosity, which is incredibly helpful in cultivating that desire to read. You can read autobiographies of successful people. And autobiographies or biographies of successful people, you gain insight as far as what their successes were, and also the challenges that they had to overcome and how they overcame it. Aloha, Nathan! Good to see ya. So these autobiographies are going to teach us quite a bit, and we're going to learn from other people's experiences, and they're usually really interesting. My favorite actually are autobiography audibles or audiobooks that are narrated by the author themselves, because then I get their inflections. And yes, audiobooks are great too. Newspapers, of course, we should read the paper, if not online, if not on the paper version, because I know a lot of people don't get it, at least online. So you can, and I would recommend the community, the local library, I'm sorry, the local newspaper. Hey, Nancy, Yancy, thank you so much for coming on board. Good to see you. Oh, thank you for all that. I love the thumbs up. So newspapers, your community, your local newspaper, those of us in Hawaii, the Hawaii Star Advertiser is very helpful in keeping us abreast on community issues. Very, very important. And finally, as I mentioned before, fiction. You need to read fiction books to cultivate that ability to put yourselves in other people's shoes. Very important, and I'm so glad that that's something that I learned from psychology today. So, you know what I want to ask? Those of you who are here with me live, can you give me a thumbs up if you read a total of, say, 10 minutes a day? Give me a thumbs up. 10 minutes or more a day. Thumbs up. And I'm curious, because I know I should come down for sure. Haven't been to the library for years. Yes, definitely. The library is an awesome, incredible place. And it definitely spurs learning. So, okay, I saw a bunch of thumbs up. That's great. That's wonderful, because I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to admit to you that when I took a job with a nonprofit, I used to be a voracious reader. I used to read all the time. And then when my life got super busy and I became so I read it 30 minutes a day. And you know what? I am not surprised, Yancy is one of the brightest people in personality, and also one of the brightest people up here, and I am not surprised that you read at least 30 minutes a day. Good for you. So anyway, for a little while I kind of fell off the bandwagon, and I was only reading periodicals. I was only reading things having to do with the industry that I was in. And you know, I noticed something happen to me. One is my creativity was really starting to drop, and I was getting kind of frustrated because I couldn't see things from different points of views. And I'm so happy, Ave, thank you, buddy. I was so happy when I was able to step away from the industry, not because I loved that industry that I was in before, but it allowed me to kind of reassess and take stock in myself and realize I hadn't been reading anything for self-improvement, for enjoyment. So I stopped that, and I'm sorry, I have all these things flashing on my Facebook Live. I need to turn everything off when I start these live streams. Anyway, and I realized I needed to start investing in myself. And so my day is still really busy, even though I'm supposedly semi-retired, but with a company and having a family to care for, I still find time to be an issue. So here are some tips that I use, some of them, and others that I read from others. One thing that I did is I hooked up my phone to my car thing, you know, where it plays on the speakers. I think it's called Bluetooth. And I hooked it up so I could listen to my audibles. I love audibles. And with audibles, what I listen to are the books that I know that if I read at home, I'm going to fall asleep. But they have such good information. Right now, the book I'm reading is Grit. And it is an amazing book about what is more important, intellect or perseverance and passion. So that's a fascinating book if any of you are looking for something. So anyway, I read those types of books while I'm in the car. I also, as I mentioned, love listening to autobiographies that are narrated by the author themselves. So the next thing, a tip is assign a regular time to read along. Assign a regular time to read along with a reading goal. So what does that mean? That means, oh, Nathan loves audibles. Time used wisely while driving, absolutely. And those of you who like to work out, I used to always put on the pumping music, you know, like I'd listen to my Tabatas, or I listen to ZZ Top and really go and exercise. But recently on the cool down, as I'm starting to cool down, I'm also listening on to the audibles. So yep, audibles are great. Getting back to what I was saying, assign a regular time each day and set a reading goal. So what that means is, like, it helps when you develop reading as a habit. And we all have heard probably that it takes 21 days to develop a new habit. So you need to do something consistently for 21 days for it to become part of your everyday routine. So what they recommend is saying, okay, I'm going to read every morning. I'm going to read a chapter a day when I'm having my morning coffee. Or I'm going to have a chapter a day when I'm eating my salad at lunchtime, or just before I go to bed. By the way, if you're going to read before you go to bed, make sure it's an interesting book, because you don't want to fall asleep, as I mentioned before, right? So assign a regular time and a goal for you to read, and you will start to develop a habit of reading. Carry your books around on your phone, on your e-reader. Now, some people will still use a Kindle. I know a lot of people have switched off of having a separate e-reader onto their smart devices, their phones and their iPads. Whatever, carry that around. And as Nathan and I said, audibles are the way to go. That's right on your phone as well. So carry it around with you, and you'll be able to enjoy reading more readily. It'll be readily available. Here's something that really, I was so relieved when I read this, when I learned this. It says, feel free to read more than one book at a time. And I used to think maybe that was my dyslexia, my hyperactivity, my ADD coming in, because I read a self-help, at any given time I have a self-help book going on, I have a trade book going on or magazine going on, I have my fiction going on, and I also have a health thing going on, because I really like to try to be healthy, thumbs up there. So it's okay. It's totally okay to have a variety of reading, because, hey, variety makes life exciting, keeps our minds open, so there's no problem there. This is a fun one. Find an article buddy or a book buddy, and agree to read X number of paragraphs or chapters a day, and you could do that and come together and share what you read. Or what they said is you could take turns if the day is really busy and you can't get to maybe the trade magazines every day. You and your buddy could switch off. One person does maybe Saturday, Tuesday, Thursdays. The other person does Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. And they take turns. They'll read the section they're supposed to, and then they'll shoot off or give the person a call and share with them a summary of what they read. So that's very helpful as well, right? Split, conquer and divide, as they say. Conquer and divide. You could also join a challenge, a reading challenge or a book club. Those are fun as well. I've never actually been privileged enough to be part of a book club, but it looks really interesting. It's something that I would like to do when I can give the time to it. Those of us who work in an office or with other employees, or you have your own business, do a book challenge. It could be a team bonding opportunity where you assign out a book, and then you come together and maybe have a brown bag lunch, and you share with each person shares their opinions and their epiphanies from that book. We used to do this a lot when I was at the Humane Society. The director of our department, she loved reading, and she knew a lot of us were just so involved with what we did that we had stopped reading. So she would actually bring in like 2 different books, and each of us would pick one of the books, and then we would come together and share what we learned, and then we would try to apply that knowledge to our work environment and to our daily our personal lives. So that's a really fun one, and it's a great way to get to know your colleagues on a whole nother level. So that's great. And finally, as I mentioned before, audiobooks for me are the cat's meow, especially for the books that are need a little bit more chewing. And some people, there's two tips I want to share with you about audiobooks. One is that people say, oh, but you can't really highlight the information that you want to, but you can actually bookmark different clips. So that's really super helpful, and you can actually give them a label. And the other thing I've been hearing quite often recently is it's not only the audiobooks, but Kindle books, online books. If you try to buy it from Amazon, from your app, you're not able to say, oh, this is not available from your app. Well, all you need to do is actually log on to your app's web browser. So if you are like on an iPhone, just log into Safari. Go onto Safari and log into Amazon there. And when you log on from the web browser, you can actually buy the books as well as the audibles right there, and it'll download to your phone, so you don't have to go to a desktop to do it. So that's kind of it. I mean, today we visited the Hawaii State Library and learned why it has pillars as part of its vernacular. We learned that there were quite a few people that invested heavily and saw the worthiness of reading. We took a look at different reasons, important benefits of reading. The biggest one that surprised me is that reading fiction and getting completely submersed and lost in a book is very important to develop empathy. It's something that I'm definitely going to bring up to the after-school group that I volunteer with, because we need to get them reading more fiction if it's going to raise compassion and kindness in the community. And then we took a look at different types of reading and tips on how to help you become a habitual reader if you no longer are. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Joy Behind the Chair. I will go ahead and put that up on my website, which is bshonolulu.com. And if you go to the blog section, you can catch all of them. Thank you, Nathan. That's so kind of you to say that. And that's it. I think I covered it all. Boy, the Portuguese in me really came out today as a long one. I have a class to teach. So excited at Citizen Salon. As I mentioned, I own Beauty Solutions Honolulu, where we help salons and stylists through education and great products. I have a class to give in 30 minutes, so I better move my tail down there. So until next week at 9 a.m. Monday, remember, read a lot and put some joy behind your chair. Mwah. Love you all. Bye.